The Deep State Challenge, Musk and Trump Unite with 7 initiatives to combat DEI policies. Introduction. In early 2025, the political landscape of the United States shifted dramatically as President Donald Trump, now in his second term, joined forces with billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk to challenge what they termed the deep state. Their primary focus was on dismantling federal initiatives centered on diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI), which they criticized as discriminatory and inefficient. The following report outlines the key events and initiatives that defined this agenda, highlighting the implications for federal governance, social equity, and international relations. Key events and initiatives. 1. Resignation offer to federal workers, January 28, 2025. The Office of Personnel Management (OPM) sent an email to approximately 2 million federal employees offering them a chance to resign with pay until the end of September. Styled similarly to a message Musk had sent to Twitter employees. The email signaled a push to reduce the federal workforce, targeting those who did not align with Trump's political agenda. Employees had until February 6 to respond, creating a stir across various federal agencies. 2. Federal funding freeze, January 31, 2025. On January 31, Trump issued a memo to freeze federal grants and loans pending a review to ensure alignment with his administration's priorities, particularly targeting DEI and environmental initiatives. This move faced immediate backlash, leading to a temporary federal court block due to concerns it violated the Administrative Procedure Act. Many federal agencies found themselves in chaos as the implications of halted funding were felt nationwide. 3. Criticism of DEI initiatives. Throughout this period, Trump repeatedly linked DEI policies to various societal inefficiencies, even attributing a tragic plane crash to the incompetence purportedly fostered by these initiatives. His administration mandated the monitoring and eventual dismantling of any remaining DEI programs within the government, framing this as a necessary step to restore efficiency. 4. Executive orders on transgender rights, late January 2025. In a series of executive actions, Trump initiated steps to roll back protections for transgender individuals, including prohibiting gender-affirming medical treatments for minors and reassessing the military service of transgender personnel. This marked a significant escalation in the administration's culture war, drawing sharp criticism from civil rights groups and advocates for LGBTQ+ rights. 5. Tariffs and trade policies. Trump reintroduced tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico, ostensibly to combat illegal immigration and drug trafficking. These tariffs quickly sparked retaliatory measures from both countries, evoking fears of a trade war and prompting concerns about potential negative impacts on the American economy, particularly for consumers facing rising prices. 6. Purging federal agencies. The Trump administration began a systematic ousting of federal employees deemed insufficiently loyal, including prosecutors involved in the investigation of the January 6 Capitol riots. This effort aimed to reshape the federal workforce in line with Trump's agenda, fostering an environment of fear among civil servants regarding job security. 7. International aid and foreign relations. Simultaneously, Trump's freeze on foreign aid programs sparked outrage among humanitarian organizations reliant on U.S. funding. This decision jeopardized numerous global health and humanitarian initiatives, undermining America's role in international aid and potentially ceding ground to rival nations like China. Common themes across sources. The dismantling of DEI initiatives was a central theme across various reports, illustrating Trump's commitment to reshaping federal policies to align with his administration's values. The use of executive power to alter federal operations and workforce dynamics was a recurring point, highlighting a broader strategy to confront the so-called deep state. Concerns regarding the legal ramifications of these actions, as well as their potential impact on public services, were consistently noted. Differences in reporting. Some sources emphasized the chaotic nature of the funding freeze, while others framed it as a necessary measure to eliminate government waste. The portrayal of Trump's approach to federal employees varied, with some viewing it as a bold reform and others as a reckless gamble that risked essential services. Timeline of events. January 28, 2025, OPM offers resignation payouts to federal workers. January 31, 2025, Trump's funding freeze is announced, leading to immediate backlash and a temporary court block. Late January 2025, executive orders targeting transgender rights are issued. February 2, 2025, ongoing discussions regarding the fallout from Trump's initiatives and their implications for domestic and international policies continue. Conclusion. Trump's re-emergence in the Oval Office has led to a decisive and contentious reshaping of federal policies, particularly concerning DEI initiatives. The alliance with Elon Musk underscores a strategic partnership aimed at redefining the role of government in American life, with significant implications for social equity, governance, and international relations. As the administration moves forward, the potential for legal challenges and public backlash looms large, setting the stage for a tumultuous political landscape in the months and years to come. The content presents a series of initiatives led by Donald Trump and Elon Musk aimed at dismantling federal policies focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI). While the surface narrative appears to be a straightforward political maneuver to reshape federal governance, several counterintuitive elements emerge from the details provided. 1. Resignation incentives for federal workers. The offer for federal employees to resign with pay may seem like an effort to streamline the workforce, however. It raises questions about legal authority and the potential disruption of essential government services. The strategy suggests a willingness to forego institutional knowledge and experience for political alignment, which could paradoxically lead to inefficiencies in government operations. 2. Funding freeze and backlash. The immediate backlash to Trump's funding freeze highlights an unexpected consequence of such aggressive policy measures. The chaos it created in various sectors, including healthcare and education, contradicts the intention of efficiency and reform. The anticipated savings could be offset by the disruption of services that millions rely upon, illustrating how attempts to cut perceived waste can lead to greater overall costs in societal terms. 3. Linking DEI to tragedy. Trump's assertions that DEI initiatives contributed to a tragic plane crash reflect a counterintuitive approach to governance, using a tragedy to further a political agenda. This strategy not only simplifies complex issues into blame but also risks alienating constituents who may see it as an inappropriate exploitation of human suffering for political gain. 4. Purging federal agencies. The systematic ousting of employees deemed insufficiently loyal raises the question of what constitutes loyalty in a government context. The expectation that federal workers should align with a specific political agenda contradicts the foundational principles of a nonpartisan civil service, potentially undermining the very integrity and functionality of federal institutions. 5. Trade policy and economic impact. The reintroduction of tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Framed as a strategy to combat illegal immigration and drug smuggling, invites scrutiny regarding economic repercussions. The anticipated benefits of such tariffs could lead to retaliatory actions that harm American consumers and businesses, illustrating a paradox where efforts to protect national interests may ultimately harm them. 6. International aid freeze. The freeze on international aid underscores a counterintuitive approach to foreign relations. While intended to realign U.S. foreign policy with domestic priorities, such actions risk destabilizing partnerships and humanitarian efforts that have been built over decades. This could lead to a loss of influence and increased global competition from countries like China, which may seize the opportunity to expand their reach where the U.S. retreats. 7. Criticism of transgender rights initiatives. The aggressive rollback of protections for transgender individuals, particularly in military service and healthcare, reflects a broader societal divide. While intended to align with certain political bases, the backlash from civil rights advocates suggests that such measures could provoke stronger opposition and activism, potentially energizing movements that challenge rather than support the administration's agenda. In summary, the initiatives taken by Trump and Musk to combat DEI policies reflect a complex interplay of political strategy, governance, and societal impact. The counterintuitive elements illustrate that actions taken with the intent of reform or efficiency may lead to unintended consequences that challenge the very goals they seek to achieve. The report, titled The Deep State Challenge, Musk and Trump Unite with 7 Initiatives to Combat DEI Policies, provides a detailed account of significant political actions and policies put forth by President Donald Trump and Elon Musk in early 2025. While many key events are highlighted, there are aspects that are likely to be overlooked by the general public but hold substantial significance. 1. Resignation offered to federal workers. The email sent by the Office of Personnel Management (OPM) offering around 2 million federal workers a chance to resign with pay until September 2025 is notable. This initiative, styled after Musk's approach at Twitter, is significant as it represents a direct assault on the federal workforce, particularly targeting those who do not align with Trump's political ideology. Significance: this move is not just about reducing the workforce, it reflects an attempt to create a politically homogeneous federal environment. Such a strategy has implications for the integrity and functionality of government services, as it risks losing experienced professionals who uphold the standards of service and governance. Furthermore, the legal ramifications of this offer may lead to challenges that could redefine the boundaries of executive power. 2. Federal funding freeze and legal ramifications. Trump's memorandum to freeze federal grants and loans pending a review for alignment with his administration's priorities was met with immediate backlash, resulting in a temporary block from a federal court. This freeze particularly targeted diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) initiatives, which Trump claimed were indicative of government inefficiency. Significance: the attempt to freeze funding is significant not only for its immediate impact on various programs but also for the broader implications regarding executive power and policy direction. This power struggle illustrates the tension between the executive branch and judicial oversight, raising questions about the limits of presidential authority in altering or halting legislated funding streams. 3. Criticism of DEI initiatives linked to tragedy. Trump's rhetoric linking DEI initiatives to societal failures, including a tragic plane crash, is another critical aspect. By attributing incompetence within federal operations to these policies, he legitimizes a narrative that could foster public support for dismantling DEI programs. Significance: this approach is significant because it weaponizes narrative and tragedy for political gain, manipulating public sentiment and discourse. It underscores a strategy that seeks to undermine structural support for diversity within federal agencies, potentially leading to long-term shifts in policy and public perception regarding equity and inclusion. 4. Systematic purging of federal employees. The systematic ousting of federal employees viewed as disloyal, particularly those involved in investigations from the January 6 riots, is a crucial yet potentially overlooked aspect of this report. This move aims to recalibrate federal institutions in line with Trump's agenda. Significance: this purge raises alarms about the politicization of federal agencies and the erosion of nonpartisan civil service principles. Such actions could lead to a culture of fear and compliance among federal employees, undermining the independence and objectivity essential for effective governance. 5. International aid and foreign relations impact. Trump's freeze on foreign aid programs has sparked outrage among humanitarian organizations and jeopardized numerous global health initiatives. The implications of halting aid extend beyond immediate funding concerns affecting U.S. relationships with allied nations. Significance: the broader geopolitical ramifications of cutting aid are significant. This move could diminish U.S. influence abroad, especially in regions where aid is critical for stability and development. Furthermore, it sets a precedent for using foreign aid as a political tool, potentially leading to retaliatory actions from affected nations. 6. Rollback of transgender rights protections. The executive orders targeting transgender rights, including barring certain medical treatments for minors and reassessing military service, represent a stark shift in policy that could affect a vulnerable population. Significance: the rollback of rights is significant not only for those directly affected but also as a reflection of broader societal attitudes towards gender and identity. This shift may embolden further discriminatory policies and foster an environment of intolerance affecting the social fabric of the nation. 7. Tariffs and trade policies. Trump's reintroduction of tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico highlights the potential for a renewed trade war. While this move is often discussed in economic terms, the political motivations behind it are critical to understanding its significance. Significance: the use of tariffs as a tool for political leverage illustrates an approach that prioritizes nationalistic policies over collaborative international trade agreements. This could lead to economic instability and retaliatory measures that ultimately harm American consumers and businesses. Conclusion: the report outlines a tumultuous period of policy changes under Trump and Musk, highlighting initiatives aimed at dismantling DEI programs and reshaping the federal workforce. The significance of these actions lies not only in their immediate impacts but also in their implications for the future of governance, civil rights, international relations, and federal institutional integrity. Recognizing these overlooked aspects is essential for understanding the broader consequences of this agenda on American society and its institutions. 1. Dismantling the deep state and restructuring the federal workforce. The Trump administration's aggressive approach to dismantling what they term the deep state is a pivotal point in this agenda. The offer of resignation to 2 million federal employees, styled after Musk's previous email to Twitter employees, signifies an unprecedented attempt to reshape the federal workforce. This initiative not only aims to reduce the size of the government but also to eliminate perceived political dissent within federal agencies. The implications of such a move are vast, including potential disruptions to essential services and the long-term impact on the quality and competency of the federal workforce. 2. Legal and institutional backlash against executive orders. The immediate legal challenges against Trump's funding freeze highlight the constitutional complexities and potential overreach of executive power. The backlash from various sectors, including state governments, nonprofits, and judicial interventions, raises critical questions about the balance of power in governance and the legal limitations of executive actions. The temporary court blocks on funding freezes demonstrate the tension between political objectives and the rule of law, which could set significant precedents for future administrations. 3. Impact on diversity, equity, and inclusion. DEI policies. The administration's explicit targeting of DEI initiatives draws attention to broader societal debates regarding diversity and inclusion in federal operations and beyond. Trump's framing of DEI policies as discriminatory and ineffective taps into a growing national discourse that questions the legitimacy and impact of such programs. Analyzing the societal and political ramifications of dismantling DEI initiatives offers insight into contemporary culture wars and the potential consequences for marginalized communities. For international aid and global relations, the Trump administration's freeze on foreign aid and the potential dismantling of programs like PEPFAR signal a significant shift in U.S. foreign policy and humanitarian efforts. Such actions not only jeopardize global health initiatives but also threaten the U.S.'s standing as a leader in humanitarian aid and development. The long-term implications for international relations and the potential for increased influence from rival nations like China are critical points for discussion, as they reflect on the interconnectedness of domestic policy and global dynamics. These points encapsulate the multifaceted challenges and implications of the Trump-Musk agenda, revealing intersections between governance, legality, societal values, and international relations. 1. The Purge of the Civil Service. 1939 to 1944. During the administration of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, there was a systematic effort to purge the federal civil service of employees who were perceived as disloyal or not aligned with the New Deal policies. This was particularly evident in the context of World War II, where loyalty to the president and his policies became paramount. Critics often labeled this as an attempt to create a deep state loyal to Roosevelt, echoing concerns about political loyalty and the integrity of the civil service. Various executive actions and memos sought to reassess and re-evaluate federal employees, leading to significant job losses for those deemed insufficiently supportive of the administration. 2. The Red Scare and McCarthyism 1947 to 1956. The era of McCarthyism saw Senator Joseph McCarthy leading a campaign against alleged communists in the U.S. government and other institutions, claiming that there was a deep state infiltrated by communist sympathizers. This resulted in widespread paranoia, blacklisting, and purges where countless government officials and private citizens lost their jobs based on often unfounded accusations of disloyalty. The tactics used during this period included congressional hearings, loyalty oaths, and aggressive investigations, reflecting a significant challenge to civil liberties under the guise of national security. 3. The War on Drugs and the Dismantling of Federal Programs 1980s to 1990s. The Reagan administration's war on drugs led to significant changes in federal policies, including the dismantling of social programs that were deemed ineffective or aligned with what was labeled as the deep state. Under this initiative, various federal programs focusing on rehabilitation and social equity were cut, while punitive measures such as increased incarceration rates for drug offenses were implemented. The focus on eliminating perceived inefficiencies in government echoed the rhetoric of dismantling a bureaucratic deep state that was resistant to reform, leading to long-lasting social and economic consequences, especially in marginalized communities. These historical cases illustrate how political leaders have attempted to reshape government institutions and civil services in pursuit of their agendas, often framing their actions as necessary to combat perceived threats from within. Future outlook. Predictions for the future. As the political landscape continues to evolve following the initiatives launched by President Trump and Elon Musk in early 2025, we can anticipate several outcomes that may shape the trajectory of U.S. governance, social policies, and international relations. The following predictions outline potential scenarios stemming from their agenda to combat DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and reshape the federal workforce. 1. Increased polarization and political tension. The aggressive dismantling of DEI policies and the restructuring of federal agencies are likely to deepen political polarization. Critics, especially from the Democratic Party and progressive movements, will mobilize against what they perceive as an attack on social justice and equity. As a result, we may see heightened activism and protests, leading to a more contentious political environment. The backlash could galvanize the Democratic base, potentially impacting voter turnout in upcoming elections. 2. Legal challenges and judicial scrutiny. The initiatives spearheaded by Trump and Musk are likely to face extensive legal challenges. The temporary court blocks on funding freezes and other executive actions indicate a contentious legal landscape. As federal courts scrutinize these policies, we may expect a wave of litigation aimed at protecting civil service rights, gender identity protections, and federal funding for social programs. The judicial outcomes could set significant precedents regarding executive power and civil rights. 3. Transformation of federal workforce dynamics. The systematic purge of federal employees viewed as disloyal or unsupportive of Trump's agenda will likely create a more partisan federal workforce. This could lead to long-term challenges in governance as experienced professionals leave the public sector, potentially resulting in a loss of institutional knowledge and expertise. The reduction in diversity within federal agencies may also impact policy formulation and service delivery, particularly in areas that require nuanced understanding of social issues. 4. Economic implications from trade policies. Trump's reintroduction of tariffs, particularly against Canada and Mexico, could lead to an escalated trade war. This may result in increased costs for American consumers and businesses, potentially stoking inflation. The economic fallout from such policies could provoke a backlash among voters. especially in regions heavily reliant on trade with these neighboring countries. Businesses may begin to lobby against these tariffs, influencing future policy adjustments. 5. International relations and humanitarian aid. The freeze on foreign aid and the reallocation of funds to align with Trump's agenda could severely impact U.S. standing on the global stage. Humanitarian organizations and foreign governments relying on U.S. support may experience significant disruptions, potentially harming U.S. interests abroad. This shift could open opportunities for rival nations such as China to expand their influence in regions previously supported by American aid, leading to a reconfiguration of international alliances. 6. Impact on transgender rights and social policies. The Trump administration's rollback of protections for transgender individuals is likely to provoke intense national debate. Advocates for transgender rights will mobilize legal resources to challenge these policies. And we may see an increase in state-level protections as a countermeasure. The discourse surrounding gender identity and rights could become a defining issue in upcoming elections, influencing voter sentiment and party platforms. 7. Shift in the tech sector's relationship with government. Elon Musk's involvement in government efficiency initiatives signals a potential shift in the relationship between the tech sector and federal governance. As Musk and his allies push for a more streamlined federal workforce, we may witness increased participation from tech companies in governmental operations. This could lead to innovations in service delivery, but may also raise concerns about the privatization of public services and the ethical implications of tech influence on governance. 8. Long-term changes in governance philosophy. If Trump and Musk's initiatives succeed, we could see a long-term shift in governance philosophy that prioritizes efficiency and loyalty over diversity and inclusivity. The potential establishment of a more autocratic governance model may set precedents for future administrations, influencing how political power is exercised in the U.S. This could result in a re-evaluation of democratic norms and checks and balances, raising concerns among civil liberties advocates. Conclusion. The initiatives undertaken by Trump and Musk to combat DEI policies signify a pivotal moment in American governance. As these changes unfold, the implications will reverberate across political, legal, social, and economic spheres. The potential outcomes will likely depend on the resilience of democratic institutions, the response of civil society, and the evolving political landscape leading into the next election cycle. The next few years will be crucial in determining whether these initiatives will reshape the American political landscape or provoke a counter-movement aimed at preserving social equity and inclusion.